What if I told you that the coldest, most desolate continent on our planet actually holds the key to unraveling the greatest mysteries of humanity? Imagine Antarctica not as an endless icy wasteland, but as a sarcophagus, concealing something unimaginable beneath its multi-mile thick ice cover. What if the ancient legends of Atlantis are not fiction, but a vague memory of a civilization buried right here, beneath the eternal ice? Satellites detect things that don't fit within the bounds of conventional geology. Giant, almost perfect pyramidal structures piercing through the ice, like silent guardians of forgotten eras. Ancient maps, created by admirals of the Ottoman Empire centuries before Russian explorers officially charted the continent on the world map, depict this land free of ice, with rivers, mountains, and possibly even cities. How is that possible? Could our ancestors have possessed knowledge that we consider lost? Or did the land itself undergo a catastrophe that froze an entire continent overnight? Ask yourself, why? Antarctica. Why does this continent, larger than the United States and Mexico combined, remain the least explored place on Earth? What forces were at work here? What secrets is the ice trying to keep? We're talking about a blood-red waterfall, as if seeping from a glacier's wound, about giant ice chasms the size of the state of Maine, about caves as large as city blocks hidden within the glaciers. Could there have existed not just microbes, but entire ecosystems that developed in complete isolation for millions of years? Or maybe there are traces of those who came not from Earth. These questions stir the blood, making the heart beat faster. Antarctica is not just a land of ice, it's a land of mysteries, a repository of forgotten history, possibly even the cradle or grave of an entire civilization. Are you ready to look beneath the icy cover and touch the secrets that could change everything we know about ourselves and our world? Join me on this journey to the very heart of the icy mystery. Does the legendary Atlantis exist beneath the ice of Antarctica? This bold, almost fantastical hypothesis belongs to the American scientist Charles Hapgood, whose ideas about abrupt shifts of the Earth's crust in the past have sparked considerable debate in the scientific community. Amazingly, the preface to one of his books was written by none other than Albert Einstein himself, which adds weight to these seemingly incredible assumptions. According to Hapgood's theory, about 12,000 years ago, there was a catastrophic shift of the lithospheric plates. As a result of this event, the continent we know today as Antarctica shifted thousands of miles southward, taking its current position at the pole. Before this global perturbation, Hapgood claims, the climate on this continent was temperate, possibly even warm, and conditions were quite suitable for life to thrive. It is there, in his opinion, that a highly advanced civilization, known to us from legends as Atlantis, was located. This ancient mystical city, described by Plato with its advanced technologies and culture, was suddenly buried under rapidly growing glaciers caused by the abrupt cooling following the continent's shift. The ice sheet, reaching several miles thick, became a sarcophagus for an entire civilization, preserving its secrets to this day. Of course, most scientists are skeptical of this hypothesis, pointing to the lack of direct evidence. However, the very idea that something more than just rocks and frozen water might be hidden beneath the Antarctic ice continues to intrigue minds. After all, Antarctica remains the least explored continent, and who knows what discoveries await us in the future when technology allows us to look deeper beneath the ice cover? Perhaps one day we will indeed discover the ruins of an ancient city there, thus confirming Hapgood's bold theory and overturning our understanding of ancient human history. This thought is breathtaking and makes us follow the research of the icy continent with even greater interest. There is a map capable of shaking the foundations of our understanding of the past. In 1513, the Turkish Admiral Piri Reis created an astonishing document, a part of a world map that still sparks heated debates and amazement to this day. On this fragment, crafted on gazelle skin with incredible accuracy for that time, the coasts of Africa and South America are depicted. But the most intriguing part is located in the southern section of the map, where we believe the icy continent of Antarctica should extend. Piri Reis depicted a coastline of land free from ice, with mountains and rivers. How is that possible? After all, Antarctica was officially discovered only 3 centuries later, in 1820, and it appeared to sailors precisely as an icy desert. Supporters of alternative history see this as irrefutable evidence. Either ancient civilizations had the knowledge and technology to map the world long before the great geographical discoveries, or Antarctica was free of ice just a few centuries ago. They point out that the outlines of the Earth on the Piri-Reis map remarkably match the contours of Antarctica's subglacial topography obtained through modern seismic methods. Moreover, the Piri-Reis map is not alone. There is also the Orontius Phineas map, dated 1531, which also depicts the southern continent without an ice cover, with rivers and mountain ranges. Moreover, its overall proportions are quite accurate. Of course, most scientists are skeptical of such interpretations. They suggest that Piri-Reis might have used earlier sources, possibly even from antiquity, or that the depicted land is merely a distorted representation of the southern tip of South America, stretched by the cartographer's imagination. They emphasize inaccuracies in other parts of the map and the lack of direct evidence of such a recent absence of ice in Antarctica. But questions remain. Where does such detailed coastline, now hidden under miles of ice, come from? How can the coincidences with the subglacial terrain be explained? These ancient maps seem to tease us, hinting at a completely different history of our planet, and knowledge that has been lost, and at a world that might have looked very different from what we are used to thinking. They remain silent witnesses to a mystery, the key to which may still be buried under the Antarctic ice. Imagine the icy desert of Antarctica, an endless white expanse bound by frost. Now imagine that in the middle of this ice cap, a giant hole suddenly appears, an area of open water the size of the state of Maine. This is exactly the shocking discovery researchers made in 2017 while analyzing satellite images of the Weddell Sea. This phenomenon, known as a polynya, is not new to scientists. These are areas of unfrozen water surrounded by sea ice. However, the size of this particular polynya amazed everyone. Its area was about 30,000 square miles. That's almost like 50,000 football fields of pure dark water in the middle of an icy realm. What causes the formation of such giant openings in the coldest place on Earth? Scientists explain this through the complex interaction of oceanic and atmospheric processes. It is believed that powerful underwater currents bring warmer and salter water from the depths of the ocean to the surface. This water prevents ice from forming on the surface or melts the existing ice. Atmospheric conditions, such as strong winds, also play a role by dispersing the ice and maintaining the area of open water. What is particularly intriguing is that the appearance of this giant polynya does not seem to be directly related to global warming. At least, not as obviously as the melting of glaciers in other regions. Similar large polynyas have been observed in the Weddell Sea before, for example, in the 1970s, and then disappeared for decades. This suggests a cyclical process, the mechanisms of which are not yet fully understood. The harsh weather conditions of Antarctica, stormy winds, and extreme cold make direct research of such phenomena an incredibly challenging task. Scientists are forced to rely mainly on satellite data and computer modeling. This giant hole in the Antarctic ice serves as a vivid reminder of how little we still know about this mysterious continent and the powerful natural forces at work there, hidden from our eyes beneath the cover of ice and fog. The fiery breath amidst the eternal frost seems incredible. But even in the realm of ice and cold, as Antarctica appears to us, there is a place for the seething heat of the Earth's depths. On Ross Island, like a sentinel, on the way to the South Pole, stands Mount Erebus. It's not just a mountain, it's the southernmost active volcano on our planet, a living and formidable reminder of the untamed power hidden deep beneath the icy crust. Its discovery in 1841 by James Clark Ross's expedition became a true sensation. Imagine this scene. Among the endless snows and giant glaciers, a volcano cone suddenly appears, with steam rising from its crater, and sometimes tongues of flame erupting. Erebus is unique not only because of its location. In its crater, there is a constantly bubbling lava lake, one of the few that persistently exist on Earth. The sight is both mesmerizing and terrifying. Liquid fire surrounded by ancient ice. The volcano is located at the intersection of deep faults in the Earth's crust, which explains its high activity. Over the last 2 centuries, it has erupted hundreds of times, and scientists are constantly monitoring its behavior. Although the harsh conditions of Antarctica make research extremely challenging. Rare expeditions to its summit require incredible preparation and courage. But the most astonishing thing is not even the existence of the volcano in such a place, but what researchers managed to discover right inside it, near the fumaroles and warm areas, simple living organisms, microbes that have adapted to these extreme conditions, to the proximity of ice and fire, to an atmosphere saturated with volcanic gases. This discovery prompts a new perspective on the limits of life's survivability and provides food for thought about what other surprises might be hidden in the most inhospitable corners of our planet, possibly including other worlds. Erebus is a symbol of Antarctica, a continent of contrasts, where ice and fire meet in eternal conflict. A world sealed under miles of ice for millions of years. In the heart of Antarctica, deep beneath an ice sheet nearly 2.5 miles thick, lies one of the greatest geographical discoveries of the 20th century, Lake Vostok. This giant freshwater body, comparable in size to Lake Ontario, was theoretically predicted and then discovered thanks to the titanic efforts of Soviet and Russian scientists. Its existence was confirmed by geographer Andrei Kapitsa back in the mid-20th century, while analyzing seismic data collected during Antarctic expeditions. But its contours were finally outlined, and the lake itself was discovered only in 1996. What makes Vostok so unique? First and foremost, its incredible isolation. For millions of years, it was cut off from the outside world by a layer of ice, which served not only as a barrier but also as a kind of thermos. Thanks to geothermal sources at the bottom, the water in the lake does not freeze, and its temperature at depth remains around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. This isolation has given rise to a fascinating hypothesis. Lake Vostok could harbor and develop a unique ecosystem unlike anything known on the Earth's surface. The conditions there are extreme: colossal pressure, complete darkness, and it is assumed a high concentration of oxygen in the water. Drilling a borehole to the lake became one of the most ambitious and complex scientific projects. Russian polar explorers, overcoming incredible difficulties, reached the surface of the lake in 2012. The analysis of ice samples formed from lake water and the water itself led to conflicting results. American researchers, analyzing ice samples, reported the discovery of DNA traces from numerous organisms, including bacteria, archaea, and even eukaryotes, organisms with complex cellular structures, hinting at the presence of multicellular life forms, such as crustaceans or even fish. However, Russian scientists approached these findings with great caution, pointing to possible contamination of the samples during drilling. Their own research revealed the DNA of a bacterium so unlike any known species that it could not be classified into any existing group. 14% of its genes have no counterparts among organisms known to science. Lake Vostok is a true time capsule, a natural laboratory preserving the secrets of evolution and the limits of life. Further study of it promises to be one of the most exciting scientific adventures of our time. The subglacial labyrinths of Antarctica, hidden from view. We are used to thinking of glaciers as monolithic solid masses of ice. But imagine huge voids, entire cave systems hidden within these icy giants. A few years ago, specialists from NASA, using radars to study the ice cover, made a remarkable discovery. They discovered a giant cave inside one of the Antarctic glaciers. Its size is simply staggering. According to scientists' estimates, this cavity is comparable in area to a large island, say, about 2/3 the size of Manhattan. The space is so vast that entire city blocks could fit inside. How do such incredible voids form? The main reason, according to researchers, is ice melting. Water that forms on the surface of the glacier or seeps through cracks can accumulate inside, gradually eroding and melting the ice, creating internal lakes and channels that eventually turn into huge caves. This process has likely accelerated in recent decades due to climate change. So far, these subglacial worlds have only been explored remotely, using radar systems that allow us to peer through the ice and map these hidden spaces. Direct entry into such caves is an extremely complex and dangerous task. However, the very possibility of the existence of such giant cavities stirs the imagination. What secrets might they hold? Could there be unique forms of life existing there, adapted to eternal darkness, cold, and pressure? Perhaps these caves are oases where geothermal heat or chemical reactions create conditions suitable for microorganisms, isolated from the outside world for thousands or even millions of years. The study of these ice caves is just beginning, but it promises to reveal to us a completely new, unexplored side of Antarctica, a world of hidden labyrinths and potentially new forms of life. Heavenly messengers frozen in ice. Antarctica is not only a realm of ice and cold, but also a unique natural museum preserving fragments of space. It is here, on the vast icy expanses, that scientists discover a huge number of meteorites, these celestial travelers that have come to us from the depths of the solar system. Over the past half-century, researchers have collected more than 40,000 meteorites in Antarctica. This is an incredible number, especially considering that the entire continent is vast, and only a small part of it has been studied. Why is the icy continent so rich in cosmic finds? There are several reasons for this. Firstly, the dry and cold climate of Antarctica is ideal for preserving meteorites. They can lie in the ice for thousands or even millions of years, practically unaffected by the destructive effects of moisture and erosion, as happens in other parts of the planet. The ice acts like a preservative, keeping them in their original state. Secondly, finding meteorites in Antarctica is much easier than anywhere else. Dark stones sharply contrast with the white surface of the snow and ice, making them noticeable even from a great distance. The movement of glaciers also contributes to the concentration of meteorites in certain areas known as blue ice fields, where old ice surfaces, bringing with it the cosmic bodies frozen within. The first such, officially recorded find was made back in 1912 by Frank Bickerton. Some of the found meteorites have Martian or lunar origins, while others came from the asteroid belt. Studying them provides invaluable information about the formation of our solar system and even the possibility of life beyond Earth. It is the abundance of meteorites and the overall mystery of the continent that fuel popular beliefs that Antarctica might conceal traces of alien visits or even crashed flying saucers. Although scientists are skeptical of such theories, the meteorite finds themselves are a window into the distant past and the vast cosmos. A glacier bleeding and emerald icebergs. Antarctica is full of visual paradoxes, and one of the most striking is the so-called blood falls. Imagine the snow-white wall of the Taylor Glacier, down which a stream of eerie blood-red color slowly flows. The sight is so surreal that it seems like a set from a horror movie. More than 100 years ago, researchers who first saw this phenomenon were puzzled. At first, they assumed that the color of the water was due to red algae. However, the true cause turned out to be much more astonishing and is connected to a world hidden deep beneath the ice. Scientists have determined that the source of this red water is a subglacial lake buried under about a quarter-mile of ice. This lake has been isolated from the atmosphere for about 2 million years. The water in it is extremely salty and, most importantly, very rich in iron. The lake is home to unique microorganisms that have learned to obtain energy by reducing iron ions in the complete absence of oxygen and sunlight. When this iron-rich water finds its way through cracks in the glacier and comes into contact with the oxygen in the air, a chemical reaction occurs. The iron oxidizes, forming iron hydroxide, which gives the water that very rusty red, blood-like tint. The blood falls is not just a natural phenomenon. It is a window into an ancient, hidden ecosystem, evidence that life can exist in the most unimaginable conditions. But the red color is not the only surprise that the Antarctic ice presents. Researchers have also discovered icebergs and patches of ice with a bright green, emerald color. For a long time, the cause of this phenomenon remained a mystery, but recent studies have shown that this color is given to the ice by iron oxide contained in the glacial dust from the continent. This dust enters the ocean, and the iron particles become part of the sea ice as it forms, coloring it in astonishing shades of green. Antarctica continues to amaze us with its palette, created by nature in the most extreme conditions. Geometry of nature or someone's joke? In the ocean expanses around Antarctica, icy giants, icebergs, drift. Usually, their shapes are bizarre and chaotic, eroded by wind and waves. But sometimes nature creates something completely unexpected, challenging our notions of natural forms. A few years ago, images of an iceberg with an almost perfect rectangular shape went around the world. Its edges were so smooth and its angles so sharp that it seemed as if it had been cut by a giant laser. One side of this icy monolith was about 1 mile long. The sight was so unusual that it sparked many speculations about the artificial origin of the object. However, glaciologists, scientists who study glaciers, quickly dispelled these speculations. Such perfectly smooth icebergs, known as tabular or table icebergs, are a completely natural phenomenon, although not very common. They form when a piece breaks off from an ice shelf, a massive floating tongue of ice sliding from the continent into the ocean. The break occurs along pre-existing lines of stress and cracks in the glacier, which are often straight and intersect at right angles. Imagine a huge cake, from which a neat piece has been cut with a knife. That's how a tabular iceberg breaks off. Glaciologist Kelly Brand from the University of Maryland offers another analogy. A fingernail that has grown too long eventually cracks, and the fracture line is often straight. The rectangular iceberg captured in the famous photos was simply very fresh. It had just recently broken off from the Larsen C ice shelf. The wind and waves had not yet had the chance to smooth its perfect edges and angles, giving it a more familiar rounded shape. Over time, erosion will inevitably take its toll, and this geometric masterpiece of nature will lose its strict form. But its very existence serves as a reminder of the grand scale and amazing processes occurring in the icy world of Antarctica. A scar from a cosmic catastrophe, hidden beneath the eternal ice. Deep beneath the ice sheet of East Antarctica, in the Wilkes Land region, lies one of the most grandiose and mysterious structures on our planet. We are talking about a hypothetical impact crater, so enormous that it might be the largest of all known on Earth. Its estimated diameter is about 300 miles. That's larger than the distance from New York to Boston or an area comparable to the state of Ohio. The discovery of this anomaly became possible thanks to Earth's gravitational field data obtained from satellites. Instruments detected beneath the ice sheet, which in places is more than 1.5 miles thick, a massive concentration of dense rock, known as mascon, characteristic of giant impact structures. Scientists suggest that this colossal scar was left by the impact of a giant asteroid on Earth approximately 250 million years ago. The size of this celestial body is estimated to be at least 30 miles in diameter. This is an object the size of a small city that collided with our planet with unimaginable force. It's hard to even imagine the scale of the catastrophe caused by this collision. The energy of the impact was so great that it could penetrate the Earth's crust, causing the outpouring of mantle material and triggering the breakup of the supercontinent Gondwana. The dust and gases released into the atmosphere could have altered the planet's climate for centuries, causing global cooling. Some researchers associate this event with the greatest mass extinction in Earth's history, the Permian-Triassic extinction, when up to 96% of all marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrates disappeared from the planet. Of course, because the crater is completely hidden under the Antarctic ice sheet, direct study of it is currently impossible. We can only judge it based on indirect data from gravimetry and seismic studies. But the very hypothesis of the existence of such a gigantic crater, a witness to an apocalyptic event of the distant past, is breathtaking and adds another page to the mysteries of the icy continent. The last refuge of the Reich, or just an icy myth. The history of Antarctica is filled not only with scientific discoveries, but also with incredible legends and conspiracy theories. One of the most persistent and imagination-stirring is linked to Nazi Germany and the alleged secret base codenamed Base 211, or New Swabia. According to this legend, even before the start of World War II, in the late 1930s, a German expedition on the ship, Swabia, reached the shores of Antarctica and claimed part of Queen Maud Land as their territory, naming it New Swabia. The myth then expands to incredible proportions. It is claimed that the Nazis discovered a system of warm caves under the ice, almost with a subtropical climate, created a huge underground city there, transported secret technologies, including flying saucers, and even that, Adolf Hitler fled there after the defeat in the war. Sounds like the plot of a science fiction movie, doesn't it? Indeed, a German expedition to Antarctica took place in 1938-1939. They conducted aerial photography, dropped pennants with swastikas, but there is no evidence of the construction of secret bases, the discovery of warm caves, or the presence of the Reich's top leadership there after the war. All these stories belong to the realm of myth-making and conspiracy theories, fueled by post-war fears and the aura of mystery surrounding Antarctica and Nazi secret projects. Modern research, including that conducted by Germany itself, has found no traces of the mythical Base 211. On the territory of the former New Swabia, there is now a modern German research station called Neumayer 3, which was opened in 2009. Scientists there are engaged in studying climate, geophysics, and marine biology, not searching for underground cities or flying saucers. The legend of the Nazi base in Antarctica remains just a legend, a vivid example of how the unknown and mysterious nature of the icy continent can give rise to the most incredible fantasies. The silent continent begins to sing its icy song. It seems that Antarctica is a place of absolute silence, broken only by the howling wind and the cries of penguins. But if you listen very carefully, or rather, use special instruments, you can hear something incredible. The ice itself sings. This is not a metaphor, but a real physical phenomenon. The massive ice shelves and fields of Antarctica constantly vibrate under the influence of various forces: temperature changes, the tides of the ocean beneath them, And of course, the relentless katabatic winds blowing from the continental plateau. These vibrations cause trillions of tiny ice crystals, tightly pressed against each other, to resonate, creating a constant, almost monotonous hum. Most of these sounds are beyond human hearing, at very low frequencies, but sometimes, under certain conditions, higher tones emerge that can be heard. Researchers who have had the chance to hear it describe the sound as subtle, continuous, resembling the play of a flute or a quiet moan, spreading over vast distances. This sound, the singing ice, has been documented at least since 2010, but the phenomenon has only recently gained widespread recognition. Scientists have discovered that these icy sounds can be heard up to almost 2 miles from their source, and seismic sensors detect vibrations at even greater distances. This is not just a curious acoustic effect. Studying these sounds provides scientists with a unique tool for monitoring the condition of the ice cover. By analyzing the frequency and intensity of the vibrations, one can assess the stress in the ice, the formation of cracks, the speed of its movement, and even its internal structure. It's similar to how a doctor listens to a patient's heartbeat with a stethoscope. By observing how the song of the ice changes over time and space, researchers hope to better understand the processes occurring in glaciers and how they respond to climate change. The singing ice is the voice of Antarctica itself, mysterious and somewhat eerie, telling a story of hidden life and the relentless forces shaping this icy world. Life thriving where it was not expected at all. When you think of Antarctica, the last thing that comes to mind is fungi. It seems that in this icy hell, where temperatures drop to unimaginable levels, nothing could exist except the simplest microbes. However, the reality turned out to be much more astonishing. Researchers have discovered that Antarctic rocks, soil, and even the ice itself are home to a surprisingly diverse community of fungi. These organisms not only survive in extreme conditions, they are perfectly adapted to them. They have developed unique mechanisms to protect against the cold, ultraviolet radiation, and extreme dryness. Some species of fungi have learned to synthesize special antifreeze proteins that prevent their cells from freezing even at temperatures significantly below the freezing point of water, for example, below -26 degrees Fahrenheit. Others possess dark pigments that protect them from harsh ultraviolet rays and help absorb the scarce solar heat. What is even more astonishing is their metabolism. Antarctic fungi have adapted their biochemical processes to function efficiently at very low temperatures. Some of them grow even faster in the cold than in warmth. They do not require much water. Many species are capable of extracting moisture literally from the air or living in almost dry soil. But the most incredible example of adaptation was found near research stations. Scientists discovered a type of fungus that has learned to feed on oil and fuel leaking from containers and equipment. These fungi literally consume hydrocarbons, breaking them down into simpler substances. This discovery opens up fantastic possibilities. It is possible that these unique organisms could be used to clean up oil spills not only in Antarctica but also in other cold regions of the planet. The discovery of Antarctic fungi is yet another testament to the incredible adaptability of life, its ability to penetrate and inhabit even the most seemingly inhospitable corners of the Earth. And this makes us ponder the possibility of discovering life in even more extreme conditions, such as on other planets.